Well, Brett, first of all, I think a lot of people, I mean, your company to me is amazing. It's exactly what I look for. But for those who don't know, please just tell us what Farmer's Dog is.
Pretty simple. We make real, fresh food for dogs. That's, I just think, the simplest way that I could put it. And I'll give you a little bit more detail as to why that's really, really important as we go through this conversation.
Well, it was definitely a labor of love. And I think that's what makes you guys a little bit more special than others that are maybe out there in your space. Tell us about your story and how it became.
Yeah, this is like a truly genuine company founding story. My dog Jada, she was sick for the first 2 years that I had her, and I couldn't find the solution to her stomach problems. I tried every food on the market. I started to notice this pattern of veterinarians recommending that I feed her like a home-cooked food, like a chicken and rice. And, well, actually, before I continue, how many people here have dogs? Wow, I'm in the right room. This is amazing. Okay, I have a gift for all of you who have dogs, or even if you have friends who have dogs or family, remind me at the end and I'll give you guys this gift. So anyway, my dog, she wasn't doing well. I noticed this pattern of veterinarians recommending that I home cook for her. And every time I did, she was completely cured. And that was when I realized that she wasn't actually a sick dog. It was the food that had been making her sick for all these years. So I started to wonder, I was like, what's going on in pet food? Why have we been conditioned for decades to believe that dogs should be eating highly processed brown balls every meal of their life? So I looked into the industry, and what I found was extremely alarming. It is completely unregulated. If you look at the rule book that this company AFCO has given the FDA to actually regulate the industry, you'd be appalled. There are rules like, for instance, what natural means on packaging. It could either mean actually from the earth or not from the earth, and completely synthetic, essentially. I mean, you could ferment it, you could put it through hydrolysis, you could extrude it. There's so many processes that you're allowed to do to food and still call it natural. And that is like the tiniest little example. I can go on for days talking about why pet food is really scary. Anyway, after learning what I learned about the pet food industry, I realized that I just couldn't trust any big brand to feed my dog. I just found that there was not a single brand out there that I could rely on or felt comfortable feeding my dog every day. And when I realized there was no brand out there, I decided to build one. And that's who we are. We're the brand that I wish had existed for my dog.
Well, it's just, I mean, I had a dog about at the same time going through the same issues, and I was making fresh food and doing vegetables for him, and he thrived and became healthy. Only I didn't make $1 million business with it, so otherwise we'd be switched. So how did you, it's one thing, a lot of people have ideas, and actually probably most of you in the room do something about it. You have that entrepreneurial spirit. How did you get started, and why did you know what you were doing was unique and wasn't out there?
Well, I looked. I really was hoping that somebody had already done this so I could just buy food and go back to my life. Yeah, I know. I wish you had just done it. Yeah, well, I think the real thing that I was thinking about was everybody loves their dog, and everybody already thinks that they're giving their dog the healthiest diet. And what they don't realize is that there's essentially just no such thing as good dog food. If it's brown, round, burnt brown balls, there's just no such thing as it being good. At the end of the day, these products are all undifferentiated with different packaging. Brilliant marketing, horrible products. And when I realized that was just the status quo, it was just the perfect opportunity because, like I said, people already think they're giving their dogs amazing food, which means that they are willing to make a change if you just give them just simple information. And for what we do all the time, and our marketing messaging is really simple. We just say, feed your dog real food, and we'll show them a picture of kibble and show them a picture of our food, and it's just obvious to them. It doesn't really take much convincing or education.
Well, even, I mean, the pet food industry, or just the pet industry, is always increasing in terms of spending. I think it's like $96 billion they expect for 2020. So you got into the right industry. But because of that, there's a popularity in your space. So You, though, are not only growing, but you're also attracting attention. You recently had, what, like $30 million investment. Why are they going to you? Why you rather than your competition?
Well, our competitors have raised have definitely raised some capital. So I don't actually even refer to our like direct competitors, the people that are also, trying to make dogs healthy. We look at them as allies, really, because for us, trying to steal market share from them doesn't really do anything for us. We're looking at the big guys. We're looking at the Purinas and Blue Buffaloes and these companies out there that are saying that they're making a really good product, but they aren't. So in regards to competition, we welcome as many companies as possible to pop up doing what we're doing, because all it does is validate the space, it validates what we're doing, and it validates it to pet parents, which is most important to us. We have Pet Plate in the audience here who, some of you might think they're a competitor. We really don't think so. If I met somebody in the street that told me that they were feeding their dog Pet Plate, I'd say, amazing. But if you told me you were feeding your dog Blue Buffalo, you'd get an earful.
Well, and as you said, I think nowadays people are, millennials especially, they're not having kids and they're having pets for their kids. So they want to feed them fresh food. And so it really seemed like a space for you to really get into, and it was very much lacking, especially when you're talking about how most pet food has always been made. So I guess walk us through that, because you have seen growth, and that's a rarity, especially you guys, it's only been since, 2015, and you're seeing success. What do you credit that to, not only in terms of your, marketing plan, but just in terms of sustaining yourselves and not spending too much money? And that's something that a lot of people just starting out, they maybe overspend, and you guys seem to have maintained where you haven't been losing any money.
Yeah, well, when we started the company, the thing that we agreed upon, me and my co-founder Jonathan, was that the number one most important thing that we are going to do here is make dogs healthy. And what we realized was, if we're starting a subscription, we're starting a new food that you really can't get anywhere else at that time, if we were to go out of business, these dogs are now stuck eating really bad food. So for us, we looked at it and we said, we need to create a business from day one that will be profitable immediately, where we never have to rely on outside capital, and we don't necessarily need to grow that fast. So something that we've always done is just kind of taken a second look. Every founder here, we're all in marketing, we all get antsy, and we really just want to grow as fast as possible. And at the end of the day, it definitely feels good on your ego when you're growing that fast, but it's not always great for your business. So we built the company from day one where our unit economics were positive. At the end of the first month, we were cash flow positive. We were not burning anything. It was when we started to raise capital and we realized, okay, now we want to grow this business extremely fast, but we always model it out where we model it out for this is what it looks like if we run out of money in a year and a half. This is what it looks like if we never want to raise capital ever again. And we always have that plan, which now, even though we've raised a lot of capital, we're still constantly looking at that, always wondering, if there's a major recession and cash flow just dries up, we don't want to be stuck.
Well, in terms of initially, as you said, you marketed as just bringing healthy food to your pets, to your dogs. But how has your maybe media plan changed or evolved since when you first started out, and now as you're moving forward and as you continue to grow?
So when we started, we basically had no money. So the most important thing to us was retention. If we're gonna somehow get a customer in the door, we can't let them leave. We need to do everything we possibly can to give them the perfect experience. This might sound crazy, but I personally do not see how we don't have 100% retention, and that is just how our entire team thinks. If you're aiming for 50% retention, that's the best you're going to get. So we're aiming for 100. So that's basically been like the cornerstone of what's helped our growth. But then also just doing sorts of marketing where the costs are fixed. Like we knew we could have X CAC, so we would reach out to influencers and bloggers and set up affiliates where we would essentially pick the number that we were paying them. We just do a CPA model relationship, and that's how we grew our business for the first few years before we actually were able to raise capital and then do a ton of testing on every possible channel.
Well, it's funny, now I do see, and again, I wish I had known you were around a lot of the time, but I am seeing now that you television ads, and I guess, at what point did you jump to that? And are you seeing more success because of that, or is it still more where you're getting that word of mouth and looking for the influencers?
Yeah, well, we're doing everything. And so I guess my view is, well, I was very nervous when we started doing television because you're just kind of throwing, I don't know, when you start $500,000, $1 million, you're just kind of throwing it out there and hoping something happens. And we actually did see like amazing lift every time that one of our commercials airs in that location. We see amazing lift, and just having the mix of people seeing us. Well, I guess the way that I like to phrase it is, every person has a different channel that resonates with them. My father, if he sees an influencer talking about a product, he doesn't even know what's happening, right? But if he sees something like an Instagram advertisement, it doesn't really resonate with him. That's not the medium in which he was marketed to growing up. But when he sees a billboard with a company on it, or when he sees a company on a television commercial, all of a sudden, okay, this is a legitimate company. So giving people the opportunity to see us in the channel that resonates with them is really important. It's actually been amazing for us.
Do you find yourself then sort of balancing it through all channels, or is there one that works better for you, that you tend to go a little heavier?
Well, Facebook and Instagram is, that's kind of the easy one. We actually didn't, our Facebook and Instagram was completely shut off for 75% of last month. And we actually exceeded targets because all of our other channels, we had been testing all of the other channels. Something that we've always been really, really afraid of is this idea of becoming too reliant on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, how many businesses did we see in, 2017, just completely disappear because they changed their algorithm, which obviously won't really affect advertising, but just being reliant on any one channel is something that I'm extremely terrified of, so we're testing everything.
But again, when you can go to channels like Facebook, it's easier probably to test things less expensively, rather than, as you said, putting all that money out in TV and waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's also really quick. Like testing on TV, you could just be, you could wait months before you really understand, is that cohort retaining? Is that even a channel worthwhile? You can get a lot of signups, but if they're all canceling, what's the point?
Right. Well, for you, as far as, I guess, tell us a little bit about your business in the sense you're seeing growth. How did it start off in terms of the amount of customers you were getting? And maybe you didn't retain them all, but you have retained a lot. How did maybe initially the amount of customers, and where are you seeing it now in terms of growth, and maybe where do you think it will go in terms of the trend that it's going on as you move into the future?
Yeah, so when we started, I was doing all the cooking and delivering with my co-founder. So we picked 8 houses. So when we first got going, we put up a website. People started calling the number. It was my cell phone. They started calling the number, and then we were like, all right, you know what? This will actually be a fun way to test, maybe get a little bit of buzz here. So we put up a landing page, and next thing you know, maybe a few months later, we had a couple thousand people on the waiting list. So when we were actually ready, we had a product. It was complete and balanced. It was good to sell to dogs. We actually had a customer call in, or a prospective customer call in, and beg us to put them ahead on the waiting list. Said they needed our food, and that was when we realized okay, we have to actually launch now. We have to start cooking for somebody. So we picked 8 dogs that all lived in the Soho, Tribeca area, so deliveries were easy. For the first year and a half, we basically did it like that, where we grew from maybe 8 to 150, all in a small area of New York City. And then we raised capital, and that's when we stopped growth. After raising capital, we realized we wanted to build a business that was sustainable and that could scale to limitless capacity. So what we did was we invested in our supply chain infrastructure and our technology. So that is kind of the secret sauce behind the business and what makes it work, and why our customers think we have a very, very simple business, because we want them to feel that way. We don't want them to see how complicated it is to have, for instance, every single one of our customers is a completely unique subscription. Everybody's getting a personalized, custom delivery for them. So you can imagine the complexity that goes into our manufacturing.
Can you walk us? I know we have some
yeah, sure.
video or slides, so walk us through that.
So this is our food. It's just food. There's nothing magic about it. When you compare it to kibble, it's unbelievably magic.
But you have people test your food, and I can actually see how that's plausible. Like,
yeah,
I don't. If most dog food, no one would test.
Yeah.
This looks good.
Yeah, the classic Silicon Valley eat your own dog food. Like, we could do it. It's actually human grade. We make it in a USDA regulated kitchen. We have a USDA inspector on site when we're cooking. So this is just meat, vegetables, and vitamins and minerals to ensure it's complete and balanced. This is our lonely little box. It's like one of my favorite lines. If your dog doesn't love it, send it back. We'll eat it. I don't even know why this box made it there, but I'm happy it did. Our box is something that's actually really fun about it is it's completely biodegradable. So the outside that's cardboard, so that's recyclable. But the inside, and that's one of the biggest meal kit issues out there, is that the insulation is terrible for the environment. Our insulation, if you introduce it to any moisture whatsoever, it dissolves. So you could throw it out, and first time it rains, it'll dissolve, or you could throw it in your sink, and it's like a really cool little science project. This is our packs. Each dog will say their name on it. It'll say the recipe, how much to feed, and when it was made. The names, while really cute, it's like very much not a novelty. We put the names and we pre-portion the food actually for utility. We realized that when we were first starting, we had 8 customers. We could only cook one time every 2 weeks, and we knew that if any of our customers overfed, they would run out of food, and we had no way to get them more food. So we realized we need to force them to feed the right way. So what we did was we packaged it in a way where they had exactly how much they needed per meal or per day, depending on the size of the dog, to ensure they would never run out. And we realized that's an unbelievable experience. People loved it, so we had to figure out with technology.
Well, it's smart,
scale
especially
it.
at most dogs, everyone's overfeeds. So a lot of heavy dogs.
Yeah, 56% I think right now of dogs in America are overweight, and they found that an overweight dog will live 20 to 30% shorter lifespan than if they were lean, which is really scary. So this is an example of how our technology works on the front end. You fill out the information about your dog. Couple of cute questions that are actually really important to us. One, it allows us to collect data that none of our the big competitors have. They have no idea what breeds are eating their food, or how heavy these dogs are, or where they live, or really anything about their dogs that they're feeding. They have 100 customers, and they're Chewy and PetSmart and Petco and so on. Our customers, we have 1 million dogs on our food. We know everything about 1 million dogs, which is really cool and an amazing opportunity for us to constantly improve and understand our dogs. So you fill out the information about your dogs into our system, and then we will give you your customized feeding plan, where you'll know what recipes you could use for your dog, and then how much to feed your dog. And then you basically click confirm, and you never need to worry about your dog's nutrition ever again. Our technology knows exactly when you're going to run out of food, and it will automatically trigger a fresh order to be prepared, packaged, frozen, and delivered to your home for the rest of your dog's life.
And everyone's always looking for data, and you have it built right in terms of for everyone to get it. So that's also, I'm sure, helps in terms of moving forward in marketing and knowing what's important, what people are needing out there.
Yeah, we're very lucky that we started that way.
Well, now, so you have this set up, and it's so personalized, but as you are growing, can you sustain that? How can you go to scale with this amazing relationship with your customers? And that's always kind of the big problem. As businesses grow, it's hard to maintain that. How are you guys doing this?
So from a customer experience standpoint, the technology that allows us to create this personalized experience. No matter how many dogs are on our food, it could be 90 million of the dogs in America. We could feed all of them with the technology that we have. It really becomes more complicated on the fulfillment side, where you're actually packing boxes that are all unique. And luckily today there is robotics that could solve that. That will help us scale to limitless capacity. in terms of the customer experience, like customer service side, that is the most important part of our business. I don't intend on ever outsourcing that. We have a 50-person, I think 50 people, customer experience team now. We're hiring like crazy. So if anybody knows anybody in Nashville, that's where our customer service office is. Please tell them to apply. They just have to be dog lovers and amazing people.
That's true. His office is filled with dogs.
Oh yeah.
Everyone brings their pet.
Yeah. The office is like unbelievable. Like culture, even outside, the dogs just make everything better. But the people are like also kind of like dogs, where they're just like really sweet, genuine human beings. So anyway, the customer experience, it's really important to us. Our CX team is essentially given the power to do what they feel is right. We tell them, like, treat each customer that you speak to as if they're our only customer, and if we lose them, that's the end of our business. And our customer experience team is just, I mean, they're like the most warm, like magical human beings. And sometimes we joke that maybe we should mess up everybody's like first or second box, because then they're pissed and they reach out to us, and then they get a moment of speaking to our CX team, and then they love us way more. I'm pretty sure if you get a messed up box, speak to our CX team, you retain much longer. So something for us to think about.
Yeah, and that's a big difference, in terms of, because as you said, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of, the Chewies of the world and Petcos and PetSmarts, and you don't necessarily find that. It's just, you just kind of, it's a product to them. It's not, well, how's your dog, that kind of thing. So obviously is that what you credit, aside not just the customer service of the people, but just your whole, I guess, methodology in terms of your company? Is that what you credit your retention to? Because you are maintaining your customers.
It's definitely a big portion of it. I think, we take a very like holistic view to retention. I mean, it could be even, and I don't know how many people look at it like this, but even the marketing messaging used to get you to sign up in the first place, if we didn't send the right message, you might not retain, right? If we didn't educate you the right way, if we just said, hey, free boxes of Farmer's Dog, and you sign up, you maybe didn't learn anything. You're just like, I like free things. I'll take anything that's free. So yeah, we take a very holistic view to it, but there's no question that our CX team is a massive portion of why our customers stick around. When they get their whenever you get your first box, you'll receive a text message from somebody on our team just to check in, make sure that your dog likes the food, make sure that the portions are right, that the recipes are right. We just want to make sure that that we're here and we care about you, and then anything that we could do to get better, we're constantly asking for feedback.
And also, I mean, with acquisitions costs, they're rising. It's, the glut of D2C spending.
Yeah.
Has that changed your media plan or your acquisition planning?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the same thing. There's no question that the prices have gone up. CAC, I think, kind of across the board for every company has risen. So for us, we're always trying to test and optimize and get smarter and smarter and test all new channels and go to the channels that companies are moving away from. Like, I mean, television kind of had a little bit of a slump. I think people are going to start to go back to it. But again, I think the most important thing, no matter how much you spend on a customer, if you're not retaining them, what's the point of going out and buying more new ones? So for us, it really is all about retention. We try to get our marketing spend to be as optimized and as smart as we possibly can get it. But even more importantly, we want our retention to be 100%. And then you could spend a lot more money on a customer.
Well, they even say which I'm getting the nod from Steve, but just keeping your existing customers is a lot less expensive than trying to bring in new ones, but then that will then in turn, if they're happy, they'll help bring in the new ones. So
yeah, exactly. The community is like how we grow. Like it's a really unbelievable channel for us. Just our customers being really happy, telling each other. We have a lot of vets that feed their dogs our food. What a great recommendation. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, now I think Steve's going to open it up.
Questions for Brett? Brett, since you mentioned that you take a holistic view of retention, can you tell us But how are you measuring the pain points for your customers and understanding what are the points where you lose them or the things you really need to shore up? Are there any metrics behind this? Are there any analytics to help point you into where you really need to be most supportive of customers in order to keep them?
Yeah, well, for one, we look at our customer experience tickets. We really try to understand what people are reaching out about. When anybody churns, we ask them a series of questions to understand why they left. I think a really key insight that we've learned along the way is the difference between hearing your customers and listening to your customers. Too often, I think companies will hear feedback from their customers and take it directly. And for instance, hey, I want you to change something about your packaging, and then you change that thing about your packaging instead of trying to read between the lines and understand what is this customer really saying, what is bothering this customer, and how can I come up with a more creative solution that's actually better for the business, that's sustainable for our business, that really makes sense, and that will also make their experience better. Because we've had customers, for instance, that will ask us to change something about our packaging to something specific, but they don't realize that if we changed it, it actually would be a way worse experience. At first glance, it seems like the best solution, but you need to essentially read between the lines. It's also, I think I hear people use the phrase data-driven. That's not something that we do. We're data-guided. We allow the data to inform us. We don't let it drive every decision that we make.
How have you, as you've been expanding into all of these other things, and I just saw my first Farmer's Dog TV ad the other day, I'm curious about how it's impacted churn and retention. Are there particular channels like TV that are not delivering the same quality or value of customer as before? What are you experiencing as you're going into things like podcasting, TV, even direct mail?
I actually don't know yet with TV. It's been a short amount of time since we started. I actually still have not seen one of my own commercials on TV, which is pretty heartbreaking. But yeah, I mean, in terms of in each channel, we'll kind of hold on to that cohort and keep an eye on them for several months out. But interestingly enough, like most of our marketing, like most of our big spending, only really started maybe at the beginning of the summer. Before that, it was Facebook, a lot of partnerships. We did influencers, a lot of affiliate, but like the big media mix that we're working with now is quite new, actually.
Hi, Brett. Sean from Zenny. I actually became aware of your brand when I was looking to take over your space at the Showfields store in New York, probably 5-6 months ago. So kudos, great build out. I don't know how interested you are, how attentive you are to the marketing spend specifically, but that one was very interesting to me because I totally new brand. I don't own a dog, but was curious about the retail experience there. I know it was a long-term investment. I loved the window type of placements you had there, and just curious about the retail component of the business and how important that might be to you guys moving forward.
Yeah, well, when we decided to do that, we were in this pre-transitional phase of the company. We had just raised our B. We had a lot of theories as to where the company can come to life that makes sense. I mean, some companies do events to come just to show up in real life. Not really a big fan of events unless it's done really, really well. But sometimes you don't really get anything out of it. Showfields for us, for those of you who don't know, it's imagine a mall that's about the size of this room where there's these little nooks for each company, and it's all pretty much direct-to-consumer startups. For us, the thing that we were really testing was there was that one location available on the corner of Bond and Lafayette that there was a window, and we wanted to test what happens when we are on a New York City street with the window. So we had the screen, and it was cool. And every month we tested something new. So one month we did treats. We don't sell treats, but we did treats only in that location. So it was a great way to drive some of our customers from the neighborhood to go see us in real life. That worked actually amazingly. We tested what happens when we sell sample packs, which is something that we've never done before, and that was interesting. For us, yeah, it was really, we wanted to just test a few theories that we had. I don't think that, for us, I don't think it was the perfect way to do it. I would have preferred having our own location. I think there's just kind of like a credibility difference when you're like in almost, it's like a glorified flea market over your own retail store. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
I have a closing question that compares you directly to Purina, because I asked this question of
Oh,
Purina
no.
a number of years ago on a call prepping for a presentation. And it's about how you profile people online and who your real target is. So when you're in Facebook, I'd like to know who your target is, because when I was on the phone a number of years ago with Purina, they said there was one key data point that they asked of their customers, and it told them everything they needed to know, or at least most of what they needed to know about their customer, and is, does your pet sleep with you? They said, if your pet sleeps with you, your value to them in terms of the amount that you'll spend with Purina is exponentially higher than someone who owns a pet that doesn't sleep with them. So I'm curious for you, and we saw the kind of profiling you do when you enter them, but when you're prospecting on Facebook and elsewhere, what are some of the key data points or the key demographics that you're aiming at?
Well, it's interesting, because I know there's like a lot of talk of like personas. We've taken a different approach. We kind of go the opposite way. Instead of kind of going based off our own logic, like this is what we think a pet person that loves their dog a lot would do. Let's just kind of let everybody know what we're doing and see what comes back to us, and let a persona be created. It's really interesting, because I've spoken to a lot of like pet industry consultants, like, you know, the execs over at Purina. I mean, you name it. We've spoken to a lot of these people, and I've came to the realization that I'm like the anti-pet industry guy, because I disagree with so much that they say. I think that generally, I mean, when I speak to people and they'll say, you know, your customer is the person who puts their dog in a Halloween costume. They're wearing cashmere sweaters and, you know, studs around their collar. And I think that is a part of our customer segment. When I think of who our customer is, I think the person their dog is not feeling well, they're just acting a little lethargic. If you're the type of person that will bring your dog to the vet in that scenario versus, let them tough it out, we'll see what happens in a few days. That's the distinguishing factor. Not whether you're gonna sleep, not whether the dog will sleep in your bed, which is something that I'm very happy that Purina thinks, because they're going way too niche with their targeting. I have two Rottweilers. There's just no way they could both sleep in my bed with me. And I'm the craziest lunatic when it comes to dogs.
Brett and Lisa, thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Thank you, guys.
Respect.